Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Posting here because Kay told me to take this too. Don't know why everyone seems to think this is some spooks or fake internet shit, but maybe it's just because I'm an old friend and it seems more normal to me. After Fight Club came out, people started real fight clubs, and no one acts like that's some satanic cult Esquire mystery, so don't know why the same should apply to something that probably just got started after the most dangerous game came out. Anyway, though none of this is new, I remember back in the day reading usernet topics on the hunting forum or threads on the off-topic category of Free Republic that described all of this. People talking about seeing strange colored flares on ridgetops and gunfire going off throughout the night while out roughing it somewhere far off the trail, or having someone shoot up their campsite only for the shooter to arrive wearing some weird colored armband and apologizing when they realized the person wasn't part of the game. You even used to hear about this stuff from time to time at hunting meetups or gun clubs. I'd pretty frequently attended meetups for certain types of hunting communities during the late 90s. Bait hunting, call hunting, nesting, etc. Every subset has its own conventions and groups devoted to them. Of course, you also had your weirdos who were more interested in using the meetups for their own agenda rather than to hunt. While I was involved in the persistence hunting community, where you stalk an animal over hours or days until it collapses from exhaustion, had a guy from the Montana militia who was going state to state giving talks at hunting lodges to try and gain more members, try to use our meetings as a soapbox for his groups at least twice, and even had an Aryan Brotherhood skinhead try and do the same discreetly, but didn't end well for him, since you shouldn't leave a bag of meth on your car dashboard if you're going to park it in a gun range where half the sheriff's deputies in the county go to shoot. Buddy introduced me to a girl named Rebecca he met from his bow hunting. She was middle-aged, well-dressed, and in terms of book smarts, things like the migratory patterns of birds or what sounds you make to get a fox out of its burrow, she knew more than anyone else I'd ever met. Still, the more I knew her, the more I could tell she didn't start showing up to the meets because she wanted to hunt. Always on hunts, she would ask us if the hunting had lost its spark or if we ever wished there was something more intense we could do, or would let it slip. She was involved in those highly illegal hunting communities, like those dipshits who start forest fires to get all the animals fleeing the blaze so they can kill them up close, like shooting fish in a barrel. When she saw this didn't faze me, she told me she wanted me to meet some friends who could offer me the most intense hunting experience of my life. Gave me an address and a date, and when I showed up realized it was a shitty interstate motel near a truck stop. Booked a room and asked everyone there if they'd seen Rebecca. No one had. Went down to the bar at the end of the road and spent a few hours there, and finally got a call on the motel phone around 3 a.m. and it was her. Asked if I could meet her friends since I didn't know why the hell I was even there, and she told me they had already met me and weren't interested, and hung up. Never heard from her again. Buddy, who introduced me to her, also lost touch not long after that and never saw him since. Can only assume whatever her deal was is related to these human hunting people. Was hoping other people might have stories they'd want to share for this thread about it. Most of the actual human hunts are more like self-end packs, to be honest. Couple guys who don't want to live anymore make a show of it. Go so far out in the wilderness they don't gotta worry about the bodies being found and decide to just hunt each other. Whoever is the last one alive can return to civilization with a new lease on life. Or otherwise, if it's a 1v1, it's two men with a grudge trying to settle it in the way men used to. Yet you'll hear rumors of larger ones. 42 people was supposed to be the biggest one, and for a lot of the bigger ones where it's teams of too many of the hunters participating don't want to just vanish without a trace one day and not have anyone know what happened if they don't win, so they bring their wives with them. The poor women not even realizing what they signed up to before it's too late. No one ever gives details when talking about how fucked up some of those bigger games get, because everyone can imagine how they can go downhill, but like I said, just making this thread to hear if anyone else has a story rather than go off on a tangent.
My great-grandpa had stories like this. Lived in a pretty rough place. A small industrial town with farmland to the north and just wilderness to the south. Said it wasn't uncommon for two guys with beef, mostly related to property rights, accusations of theft, arguments over women, to just wander out into the woods and only one comes back. I always loved hearing his stories because my mom would just nervously tell me he was just telling tall tales, in a tone that said she did not appreciate her son being told these things. Weird that you mention colored flares. I'm friends with the local sheriff, and one evening while I was bullshitting with him and some deputies in a bar, they talked very briefly about weird reports over the years, coming in mostly from campers or teens out fucking around, about lights or flares in the woods, way out there. Apparently it's been an unwritten department policy for decades that you just don't worry about it. Don't investigate. They all had theories about what it was, but I don't think human hunting came up. Of course, this area has been host to some UFO hoaxes and the like. So who knows?
Human hunting is a known occurrence, and while most people think it refers to rich people hunting people for sport, that's not the case. People go out into the woods. Largest known case was 40-plus people in teams of 7, and play either teams or free-for-all. Last man, team standing wins. There are numerous threads, legit police reports of people finding evidence, but no bodies, left behind packs with bullet wound medical gear, spent casings with human blood, brain and skull matter. The few player corpses found usually have armbands, headbands with symbols and numbers on them. Notes left behind with I1 set of numbers. Usually they use the same woods until a civilian is caught in the crossfire. They use flares to signal the start of the game, but flares usually draw in hunters, campers, hikers, or feds, leading to non-player deaths and a change of location for future rounds.
First off, I am not a rugged outdoorsman, and neither are any of my friends, but we all generally like the outdoors. Second, pardon my English, it is not the best. And last, this is not a skinwalker story, but I think it fits in a too spooky for me thread. Last summer around July of 2014, my buddies and I planned a camping trip to Minnesota around Lake Vermilion. I have family who own land up there, so it seemed like a good place to visit for us to plank and camp. In total, there were 4 of us. Let's call them Sam, Chad, and Tim for the sake of the story. I had a 10-22 takedown and a 9mm Browning high power. Sam had a Weatherby Vanguard and 30.06. Chad had a Savage Arms Mark II 22 and an LC9. And Tim borrowed Sam's Weatherby PA8 12 grams. The day we arrived, we parked the truck at the marina and took the boat and went fishing and caught enough food for shore lunch while Sam surveyed spots to tie off the boat and make camp. Well, to speed up the story, we killed the rest of the day, and around 7 p.m. we decided to be brave little adventurers. So we tied off to a tree and covered the boat to hide it. We really didn't think things through. Someone could have probably stolen the boat, but whatever. Sam and Chad had found a clearing overlooking a large area of woods that was situated on a large hill with a steep cliffside. We decided to camp on the edge and watch the sunset like a bunch of friends, cause I enjoy nature's beauty, okay, don't judge me. We all were heating up our food on a little propane grill looking at around 10-ish. Now this is where shit started to go down. Off in the distance we saw a yellow flare, which as I was led to believe meant a fire warning. This was odd because we couldn't see a fire from our relative vantage point. Then we saw an orange flare, which means lost, so we planned to go towards the area thinking someone was just lost and needed help and was just using whatever flares they had. Now we then saw a green response flare, and this is where everything went to shit. No foul smell. No random person added to the group. No skinwalker. No get on the floor. What happened was a solid half hour of occasional gunfire that seemed like a bunch of small shootouts. We listened to it and watched the woods, all with guns at the ready, even though the best gun I had was a 9mm Browning high power and Chad only had a 22 and a gun for concealed carry. The next 7 hours till dawn were the longest of my life, with very little movement or conversation between us all. We never actually saw anyone come out of the woods. We never slept, and we went to the boat, guns drawn, and only packed the guns up when we were well away from the shore. None of us had any idea WTF was going on, but we all came back to get answers 2 days later at around 10 a.m. with the same guns, with the exception of me bringing my own PA8 and Chad bringing Sam's 870. What we found didn't explain anything as to why the events happened, but from what we could gather was a shootout between a decent amount of people in the northern Minnesota woods. We searched from roughly flare to flare, and all the sites had things in common: food packaging, cardboard boxes that ammo comes in, spent flare shells, and other garbage. The areas between each flare was where shit seemed to go down, and not the sites themselves. What caught our eye most was spent 0.12 grams hulls, but around the hulls was a noticeably large amount of other brass, ranging from 223 to 762 by 39 to 762 by 51, etc. The most oddball caliber we found was 32 long. I found around 30 rounds of that and still have it all. Along with the spent brass were rags or ripped clothes. And throughout the area was just random stuff strewn around every 15 or so yards. We left and never really figured out what really happened or even why. I'm sorry there was no spoopy bad guy or anything really exciting, but this is just something I chalk up to people killing each other in the woods.
I have a similar hunting horror story, and it's not about skinwalkers either. Hunting with my brother and cousin in Washington. a few miles from the Canadian border. All of us loaded with rifles. 2 ARs and an AK, pistols, all Glocks, a crossbow, flares, radios, etc. We were hunting, but in the likely event we didn't find anything, we were going to have a good old-fashioned turkey shoot. 3 of us huddled in a little hutch we made, sitting in silence and watching for deer. Gets boring, I start to doze off. Brother wakes me up, says something weird is going on. I see a green flare in the sky and watch it fall. I think somebody is hurt and signaling for help, start to get out gear for a rescue opus when they both stop me. A second red flare shoots off some 100 yards away from the green one. They both said this is the second time it happened and were planning to go check it out when the third flare, the one I saw, went off. Something just didn't seem right, so we choose to wait it out. The sun is starting to set, it was the start of fall, so it got dark fast. We're discussing what to do next when we start to hear gunshots. They were rifle shots, I could tell that much, and it was coming from the flare location. Nobody fucking moves. We hear the gunfight go on for maybe 15 minutes. I swear I heard a scream as well. Then nothing, complete silence for the rest of the night. First light we go to leave, my cousin wants to check it out. WTF, are you serious, you spurg? We do it anyway, but keep a distance, stay on our side of the river bank, and use binoculars to see the area from 200 yards. Can faintly see bullet riddles trees, but that's it. We GTFO and never go back to that area again. I always assumed it was drug dealers. People worry about the Mexican border, but that shit happens up north too. Now I wonder if it was something else.
Yeah, it was a real thing, and it is something you do not ever want to go through in your life, especially when you're hunting alone in the woods, when someone is hunting but not after deer but after a human being. Almost got killed by one during my hunting years in the 90s. I don't have evidence or anything to timestamp shit with, so you're gonna have to take my word on this, because it was not something anyone should have to go through, and also connection is slow, so it will take a long time to post. Be out hunting in the woods of Ozarks during hunting season. I have been doing this for quite some time, since it means I don't have to go buy meat for large sums of money when I can hunt and get large packs of meat for free. Deep in the woods, because I couldn't find any deer, so I had to move deeper to get a higher chance of finding a deer. Noticed another hunter, since he was wearing camouflage and has a hunting rifle, so didn't pay much mind but kept my distance because somehow something felt off about this guy. Made some distance before settling down and setting up my small spot to wait for any deer to come by. An hour goes by and I hear something in the distance, which at first sounded like it was an animal, so I took my rifle up and waited for my target to come close by. Except it didn't, and the sound started to sound more like it was a person that was moving and not a deer. Something inside me told me to get the hell out of there, which I put it off as just paranoia, until a shot rang out and hit the tree next to me. Fucking made me jumped, and my first words was, "Watch where you aiming, you almost got." Another round hit close but barely hit me. I couldn't see where the shots were coming from, but immediately knew that I had to get the hell out of here now. Ducked down and began to run as another shot went off and hit the dirt a few inches next to me. If I knew where he was, I would have maybe had a chance to shoot at whoever is shooting at me, but didn't want to risk myself, because if I stopped moving then I would be an easy target, or he would creep up on me and just kill me from a clear line of fire. Began to run when I heard footsteps begin as well, so now the guy was chasing me as I tried to outrun this maniac. Trying to keep myself together at this moment, because this is terrifying as it is now that someone is trying to kill me for no reason. Managed to outrun him, but I ain't in the clear because I know that he ain't given up on me, so I try to make as little noise as I can while keeping my head down, moving through the woods. Begin to think back about the guy I spotted earlier ago and begin to piece the puzzles together in my head and come to the conclusion that it may be the same guy, but my thoughts were interrupted by the sound of leaves breaking. Luckily, there was a huge rock with a fallen tree next by, so hid behind it and stayed silent as the sounds came closer. The guy walked literally right past the area I'm hiding behind, but luckily he didn't look around the area or I would have been dead for sure. And yeah, I had the rifle with me, but I never expected this to happen today like this, and also I didn't trust myself to be quick or be able to hit him, because this shit isn't like fucking video games. The guy's footsteps stopped moving and I held my rifle close by, preparing myself to actually be forced to use it on another man to defend myself. The guy's footsteps began again and it went away, but I stayed in my area for a long time until I felt comfortable enough to move a bit, but by this time the sun was beginning to set down, so I had to quickly get back to the dirt road where I parked my pickup truck a while ago. Peeked my head around and surveyed the area to see if he was still there, which luckily he wasn't. Began to move again while keeping my head down and made slow movements because I didn't want to let my position out to that maniac. By the time I got to my truck, the sun was now down and it was hard to see anything past the short distance, so as I got inside my truck and started the keys, that is when I saw the guy again, which had his gun aimed at me because a round went off and it hit the windshield. Quickly hit the gas and got the hell out of there. Managed to get back to town, and the first thing I did was go to the police station and told them what happened. Stayed and answered their questions before I had to go home since it was late at this point. Time went by and they never did catch the guy nor even find any traces of him. Went and got my windshield replaced, and since then never went back out to the woods again. I don't care you believe me or not, but when you're going hunting, just make sure you know your surroundings, because there are real fucking crazy maniacs that will kill you during hunting season.
Indiana friend here. We have human hunters who skulk around in the woods and shit. Terre Haute is an easy place to get stabbed. Walking in the woods at this nature park type place. Pretty much a trailer park in the woods. In winter, parks are supposed to be closed, but I live here sadly. Come up to a pond, you can see across it where another trail is. Freeze. Tall ass dude, got to easily be 6'5" standing on the other side. Full military getup, camo fatigues and boots and shit. He's staring at me. The lake is not too big, we can both see each other pretty clearly. In 0.2 seconds he pulls a gun and aims right at me. Still frozen, fight or flight is out to lunch. He fucking laughs and lowers his pistol. Yells, "You're a brave little bitch," and starts walking into the brush, still chuckling. Regain control of legs. Sprint home as fast as I fucking can. Tells park management about it, they say they will walk the area to look for the guy. No one ever did, they didn't seem to believe me. I don't know if he was legit military or just a human hunter. Indiana has some weird motherfuckers.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel, as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.